Hello and welcome to another craft and chat, and we're in the slightly echoey conservatory. If you're new here, my name is Becca, and on a Wednesday I make videos all about the fibre arts, which I kind of roughly call a Woolly Wednesday, and on a Sunday more of a vlog style video. Now, I was supposed to be showing you a video all about this stuff, which is part of the Rare Breed Spin Along. This is Castle Milk Morat. However, it has taken much longer to film than I thought it was going to. The main reason it's taken a bit longer is that rather than doing just one spin, I actually want to do two spins because it's quite neppy, and I'll explain what neps are in a minute. And so I want to remove the neps and just spin up some of this kind of floofy, fluffy stuff without neps, which means I've got to remove them, which is quite a long process. So the video is not going to be ready for this Wednesday. If you're watching this in real time, obviously if you're not watching this kind of in order of the videos coming out, then that's going to make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Well, I hope you've got a nice fun project. I have got a slightly going cold, it's not completely cold, a slightly going cold cup of weak milky Earl Grey. I know, not everybody's cup of tea, but I really like it. So I've got a big table full of potential projects to pick up because I'm being very indecisive about what I want to work on. So I thought I'd just kind of show you what I've got going on at the moment, and then maybe you'll understand why I haven't finished the video. So as I say, I've got this wool that I want to just remove the neps from, and I'm using my terrifying combs, which are not wool combs, they are honey uncapping combs. And if you watched the last craft and chat, I freaked people out by actually working with them going towards my face, and it was because I wanted to show the change in direction rather than that's how I'd been working with them. So I will actually do another demonstration and actually not terrify people by kind of nearly stabbing myself in the face. Not that I nearly stabbed myself in the face, but I think it was somewhat concerning for people. I apologise for that. I didn't mean to freak anybody out. It just sort of happened. What else have I got? Okay, so I'm just doing a bit of slow stitching, and this is a very worn out little sort of vest top. And then I dyed some silk that came from offcuts from Contrado, who are a print-on-demand company based in London, and they have got a really good sustainability program, and any of their sort of offcuts of fabrics that they're not going to use, they actually offer to people for free. You just have to pay the postage. I have to say, since I got this, I haven't seen it available again. I think it's become really, really popular. Anyway, so I dyed this with gorse flower. It's a very pretty colour. And then I'm just sort of experimenting with a bit of slow stitching. As I said before, I thought slow stitching would be my thing, and I just haven't really got into it. I was not inspired to make a journal. I was not inspired to make scrolls that a lot of people make, but I am quite inspired to sort of use it to patch things and to repair things, for visible repairs. I'm definitely very kind of rusty with the old hand stitching. I mean, back in the day, I say back in the day, I mean, I was at school really when I did embroidery. I was really good at embroidery at school, and then I dropped it because, you know, other things. I was going to say horses and boys, but not necessarily that order. Probably mainly horses, actually. Or boys? No, horses. Yeah, it was in that order. Horses. Horses first, boys second. And so various things got dropped. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I might pick that up. I have my endless sock knitting, because always be knitting socks, but I'm a really slow knitter. And I've been sort of, I can't remember the last time you saw this, but I mean, it was ages ago that I started these. I've turned the heel, I'm now just doing the decreases on the gusset. And this was hand spun with sock roving, no, not roving, a specialist sock top from World of Wool, which is Shetland. I want to say 80% Shetland, 20% bio nylon, but it might be 90% Shetland, 10% bio nylon. Anyway, I'll link it, and they've got a good selection. They are not the only people that do these specialist sock yarn sort of coloured tops, cone tops. But yeah, I liked it, and then I added a bit more of something to it because, you know, why not? What else have I got here? Ah, yes. Okay, so this, which I'm not going to unpack because I want it to stay like this, is from Hilltop Cloud, and it's cashgore. And I kind of stressed about it because obviously she uses acid dyes, and I'm trying to sort of wean myself off using the synthetic dyes and just sticking with the natural dyes. But I sort of came to the conclusion that actually I like to support a Welsh business, I like to support a female run business, and she does beautiful work, so I bought it and I have got plans for it. She also sent a little freebie, because she always sends a little, well, I don't know if she always sends, but every time I've had something from Kate at Hilltop Cloud, she sent a little freebie, and this is a superfine merino and silk. What a beautiful colour, what a beautiful colour. So those are going to be fun to play with, and they're all things that eventually will end up on the channel. But as I'm discovering, this whole kind of content creation, video making thing takes a really long time, and I can make a vlog very kind of, I was going to say very quickly, no, relatively quickly. It still has to be edited, but they are quicker to make than a kind of instructional video. So I am going to keep going with the instructional videos. They just take much longer to make. So kind of telling myself, oh, every week I'm going to have an instructional video, actually has turned out to be something not particularly achievable. But I'm trying not to stress about it and just enjoying the process and just carrying on. Hence why we're here for Craft and Chat. Okay, what's the other thing? Now, you will know this if you've watched the channel for any length of time, because this was my favourite blouse that I was wearing in most of my videos, and I did do that quite intentionally so that when you saw one of the thumbnails or one of the videos, you'd go, oh yes, that's the woman that talks about hand spinning and fibre arts. However, sorry, I had to stop mid-flow because the dog is outside going crazy. We have an old woodshed and there are definitely mice living underneath it, and she has dispatched, several, and yeah, she's obsessing about it, so she was barking rather loudly, so I had to stop. Anyway, where was I? Mid-flow. Oh, and I also hadn't turned the noise cancelling on the microphones, so it's not quite so echoey in here. So fingers crossed it's now slightly less echoey, I hope. Anyway, what was I saying? Right, yes. So this shirt has now gone into holes under the arms, which, you know, is where it is likely to go into holes because, you know, it's a bit warm under there. And if you're wearing a deodorant or an antiperspirant or anything like that, then that can sort of help to weaken the fibres of the fabric. So what I want to do with this is actually clone it, because it is just about my favourite shirt that I think I've owned in years, really. It's a lovely fit. It's got nice darts at the back and it kind of fits nicely. And now the dog is barking because she obviously thinks, right, where is she? Hang on a minute. Oh, now she's just obsessing about the neighbour next door. My neighbour Claire is repotting her plants for the spring, and Millie can hear her and she keeps telling her off. Poor Claire. Anyway, yeah, so I want to clone that. And I have been watching YouTube videos. I think I know what I'm doing. I want to use thrifted, charity shop, op shop fabric, or actually other linen clothes that I sort of upcycle. So maybe patchwork them and then sort of turn them into a shirt. But I need to make a pattern first. Okay, Millie's gone to see Andrew, so hopefully no more barking. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about neps. So what do we mean by neps? We mean the very sort of tiny, tiny, tiny short bits of fleece, and sometimes they're sort of a little bit bobbly, so you could have sometimes they're second cuts, but basically they are not going to spin in nicely to your spinning because they're sort of a bit lumpy and bumpy. So you can add neps to your yarns. So if you want to spin something that's got a bit of texture, quite classically to what they call a tweedy style yarn, so you can actually use these in your spinning. When I was spinning up, so I hand carded because I didn't want to spin straight off this bat. I wanted to actually try carding it to see if that was going to help, because I could see how short and neppy it was, and also I wanted to try and get rid of some of the kemp. There's not a huge amount of kemp in here, but I just wanted to try and get rid of some of it. So I was hand carding. I mean, it's span, and you'll see that video when it comes out. But it crossed my mind that it would be good to have less neps in it. So this is sort of as far as I've got. So I'm just going to start working away. I'm just doing little bits at a time because otherwise I get bored, which if you are neurodivergent, you can probably relate to that. So I just have to do little and often, and I have to have lots of projects to switch between, and then it all gets done. All right, and now the little dig dog wants to come and talk to me. Of course she does. Right, I'll be back in a minute. So those are my little neppy bits, and that's my less neppy bits, pulled out bits. So the dog is just going to interrupt us continually because she's so wound up, and I'm not talking to her, obviously I'm talking to you, which always winds her up. So she is being a bit yappy. So I think I said the last time I was doing this that you could definitely put these in some kind of sort of clamp or in a vise, and then you could use a diz to pull off more of a sort of comb top. I think that might be quite challenging with this length of staple because it is quite short, the staple length. But you'll see when I have finished the kind of full-on video how I have been attempting to spin with that and tackle it. But I'm getting a lot of waste. I mean, it's not waste because I'll use it for other things. And then rather than dizzing, I've just been sort of pulling this out like this. So as ever, let me know what you're working on. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments. I'm always happy to attempt to answer them. I don't always know the answers, but there are some very, very experienced fibre artists in the community, and they're very helpful, and they will no doubt answer the question if I can't. I am a little bit behind with comments at the moment. It's taking me quite a long time to get to comments, so I do apologise, but I really do try and answer everybody's comments. I read them all and I really do try and answer them all. But as I've said in kind of my latest videos, it's quite a busy time of the year for me. The gardening is sort of taking off again. The bees need attention, and there's a lot going on. So I'm going to try and keep up with the 2 videos a week. If I'm going to miss a video, I will try and put a post in the community tab, just so that you know. Oh, I'm going to do that again, I think. Come on. Yeah, so as I said, I terrified people by pulling these combs towards me the last time I was showing this. I'm going to be constantly interrupted by the dog, of course. Right, sorry, it's going. I think she's trying to tell me she's found a mouse, or what might be a mouse, or there was a mouse once there, crossed the path, and now she's barking at it. I will be back shortly. So we get quite a lot of speculation as to what breed Millie is. As far as we know, she is mostly Jack Russell. We did get her as a puppy, but she didn't come from a registered breeder. It's just a, it was just a farm, and one of the farm terriers had pups. So we had one. With those long legs, we suspect there might be a little bit of whippet in there. When she was a very little pup, the vet speculated that there was some Welsh Terrier in there. The people who live in Australia have said, is she an Australian Terrier? I think that's unlikely, because she came from a farm near Newcastle Emlyn in West Wales. But that doesn't mean that she's not. At some point, we might well do one of those doggy DNA tests. But, we don't really mind. She's not a show dog or anything. We're not going to breed from her, so it doesn't really matter. But we met her mum and we saw her dad, and they both looked like long-legged Jack Russells. However, there was a very whippety looking dog on the yard, and I wonder whether when Mum was in season, he got a little sneaky sexy time with her, because she has very, very long legs, and now she's barking again. Of course she is. Every time I want to make a video. Well, I'm finding this quite relaxing, just doing this. I don't know that I've got this kind of method quite right, but they're quite these sort of primitive or feral, if you like, prefer breeds. These kind of short-haired breeds, I think the fleeces they're quite different to what I'm used to spinning. So this is now the second of these shorter haired breeds that I've tackled in the spin along. And I'm really trying to work out the best method for me. So if you have experience with them, just let me know in the comments how you tackle it, how it works for you. And again, you will see when the video comes out, but I was kind of short draw, long draw. I was kind of in and out and trying to figure out the best spin for it. I'm not going to comb all this lot up. I'm going to do a test spin and then decide how I'm going to spin up the rest of it. I mean, I might just put it in a blend because it's a lovely colour. But when I started this project, I sort of had this idea that at the end of the project, and it's going to be a much longer project than I thought it was, at the end of the project, I would weave some kind of rare breed rug. So I need a sample of all the different breeds so I can do this little bit of weaving. Probably weaving rather than knitting. If I was knitting a big garment, we'd be waiting for 12 months, because as I've said many times, such a slow knitter, and I get bored with stuff. So I tend to knit very small projects. I used to try and tackle big projects, and as I say, I just get bored with them. So as I try to work with the way my brain works, I found by having smaller projects that I'm going to finish, it is much better. And then, of course, I discovered weaving. Where has weaving been all my life? I had no idea it was going to be so much fun. And I had no idea it was going to be my thing. I made the mistake early on, and the first loom I bought was, I think it was 32 inches wide. It was quite a big rigid heddle loom. And it was too big. It just took too long to warp it up. And then I discovered little looms. And little looms are such a joy. I really, really enjoy working on that little rigid heddle loom I've got. 16 inches, and it's great fun. It's quick to warp up, and I've been using sort of double knit weight and Aran weight wools, and it's been so much fun. I absolutely love it. And of course, if you've been here, you'll know I also have been weaving tea towels using thrifted cotton, and I love it. I'm still learning. I mean, I most definitely haven't got it down to pat yet, and I certainly don't want to start teaching anybody how to do it because I don't really know how to do it myself yet. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Right, I'm going to have a little breather from that, little slurp of tea. And what else have I got? Ah, right, the other thing that I bought to show you was a prototype of my dye diary. And this is an old jotter notebook. Let's open it on something really. So when I'm working on my Zazzle shop, which I do still work on, you know, kind of just keep it ticking over, I quite often just scribble things down. So I have endless numbers of these notebooks with random scribbles in them that are, you know, they're not sort of, it's not a journal or anything, it literally is. So as I'm working, I don't forget what I was thinking. You know, I'm thinking, oh yes, I need to put this in the, I don't know, the retirement party section, and I scribble myself a note. And so I've got quite a lot of these notepads, jotters. So what I've been doing is turning them into prototypes for a dye diary. So I just did a quick little form, printed it out on printer paper, stuck it to the pages, and then I started sort of doing an outside cover. And this is repeating pattern kind of prototypes for fabric that I never took any further. I mean, it's okay, it's not perfect by any means, but it's not supposed to be perfect. It's just me having a bit of fun and reusing something. But I think it definitely does have the potential to be a sort of a dyer's journal. And as I'm trying to figure out how I create myself a job, which is what I think I'm trying to do at the moment, because, and I've said this before, you know, I've got my print on demand, my Zazzle shop where I make the invitations and stickers and various things, and that just ticks over. And there's been huge changes in print on demand. And if you're an artist and you've ever thought of selling your prints or cards or something, then print on demand is a good way. It used to be a really accessible way of doing it. However, it is really, really oversaturated. And there's been a massive change because of AI art. Things have just completely flipped on their head. And it's not quite as straightforward to make a living. Not that I was making a living. I mean, I was doing it part-time. I was only after a part-time income. And as I keep saying, I just need this to be a part-time income because Andrew is retired. I just want a bit of, you know, kind of a bit of breathing space, so I don't feel bad about buying myself ridiculous piles of fleece and wool and various things, because I'm not taking it out of the housekeeping. So that kind of is always where I'm sort of coming from. I kind of think, yeah, I just need a little bit of money, so I'm not kind of thinking, oh, I really shouldn't buy that. I'm just going to change activities and do a little bit of stitching. I'm going to have to put my specs on for this. And as I said, I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing really, but I'm just sort of doing a running stitch. And I do watch various YouTubers who slow stitch. And again, it's one of those things, I really love the things they produce, but I'm not necessarily that interested in doing it myself. So this is sort of my version of it, is sort of using it to embellish, repair, decorate, change. And my needle's just come unthreaded. Change clothing. So it's sort of wearable art rather than just art. I think wearable art's very interesting. I mean, it was a whole movement started, I'm going to say, sort of 1960s it really started. Maybe its heyday was in the 80s in New York, but I mean, it continues. And I read something somewhere, it might have been on Instagram actually, it might have been a post, someone sort of saying, you know, the fibre arts are finally being recognised as, it was one of the big museums was doing an exhibition of stitching, of weaving, not of stitching. And I sort of thought, well, I think museums have been doing exhibitions of tapestry and weaving for quite a long time. So one of the things that really appeals about slow stitching is the sort of mindfulness of it, and just the ability to slow the mind, get out of your head and into your hands. I mean, really, that's how I feel about spinning. And I could easily just hand spin and actually not make anything with the hand spun and gift it to people who are going to do something with it. I mean, selling it is an option, of course, but I've spoken about the folly that is selling or hand spun, because you just really are going to struggle to kind of make any kind of return on it. But I guess if you're doing it just because you love to spin, and what do you do with a lifetime supply of hand spun yarn if you're not going to use it, then maybe that's fine. Yeah, this is all very sort of messy and random, but the slow process and using the hands is quite good. Right, let's go back to a little bit of wool. The other thing that I have done that is definitely do as I say, not as I do, is I've bought a raw fleece. And I have bought a 2024 clip raw fleece. And if you ever listen to me talk about raw fleece, I always tell you to buy this year's clip. And we're in April and people have started to shear. So there is the beginnings of the 2025 clip out there. However, I saw that Benridge Woolworks had Lincoln Long Wool raw fleece on special offer, and I need Lincoln Long Wool for for my rare breed spin along, and it's one of the breeds that's more difficult to find as prepared fibre. And I just had a very nice gift from someone on Buy Me a Coffee. So someone had bought me a coffee. I mean, it's not really buying me a coffee, is it? It's, well, in my case, it's buying me things like microphones and, well, in this case, raw fleece. So I bought a raw fleece, and it'll be here, I don't know, week, 10 days, something like that. And I will do a whole series on preparing raw fleece. I mean, it'll depend what it looks like when it comes. I mean, it'll be skirted, which means that the kind of the daggy bits, the pooey bits, the breechy bits, which are the kind of really hairy bits on the legs, they will have been removed. So if I can sort of lay it out and show you the shape of the fleece, then I will do that. Long wool is obviously a bit different from something like your Jacob or what do you see a lot of? You see a lot of Jacob or your mule or your Texel or something like that. It is quite different. And my aim is that I will prepare some of it as locks. I will prepare some of it to comb and spin, and I will look at different methods of preparing it. There's a really good answer to one of my videos, and of course I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of our Kiwi friends, friend for the channel, one of our Kiwi friends, NZ, and they did a really good description of how they actually process long wools, and I was like, that is a brilliant way of doing it. So I will endeavour to share that, and just as ever, just experiment with lots of different ways of doing things, because I really think there is no one right way. There is the way that is right for you. Now, I strongly suspect this video has got immensely long. I mean, it feels longer for me than it does for you, because it took ages for the dog to settle down. She has now settled down finally, but she has just been beside herself. Okay, so I will see you hopefully on Sunday if you're watching this in real time. If I don't get there, I will let you know in the community tab, but it will be a vlog, and I have filmed a little bit, and I will finish it off hopefully a little bit later in the week. Plus, obviously, I'm going to be working on this, so fingers crossed by next week I will have all the footage and will have done all the research for the next in the series that is the why am I saying long wool? It's not long wool. I've got long wool on the brain. The rare breed spin along. Right, I'll see you really soon. Bye-bye for now.